right, Michael. My first question is, who have you been listening to lately?
Well, we just were mentioning that I recently got back into Dead Moon. I was listening to the album In the Graveyard, and I listen to all sorts of stuff. I mean, it like right now feels like it's kind of a weird time where it's a lot of similar sounding music kind of coming out. Like I listen to stuff that's like pop or weird noisy records and stuff. But there's a lot of like whisper singing and kind of like that sort of thing going on right now. And which was cool, but I guess I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm like, all right, I want somebody to yell.
I wanted to say this is like a full circle moment for me because I learned someday soon back in my high school days, and I actually learned how to play that song from an interview you did with this with a girl with a pixie cut.
I don't remember it. I taught her how to play the song.
No, she was interviewing you guys and she was like, "Oh, there's a guitar here." And then
Oh,
and then you played Someday Soon.
yeah. I mean, it's not hard. The only one that's weird is that bridge chord. That one's the only spot where you have to do, I think it's like a seventh or something like that, but it's kind of an odd one. Sometimes I'll see like somebody covers one of the songs and they'll play it different than I do. And I'll be like, oh, that's cooler than what I do because I'm not really a particularly great guitarist or anything. And so I'll see people doing cooler, weird stuff. I'm like, oh, I should rip that off. There was some band
And
from San Antonio a million years ago that did a cover of Gay Human Bones at like some rec center, and the video is awesome. I don't know if it's on YouTube or whatever, but the kid had like he could get into octaves that or like notes that I couldn't hit, and I was like, shit, that's so cool because he's like actually hitting the note, and I'm straining for it, you know. But I don't know. He might have been like early stages of puberty or something like that. Hadn't had his voice change yet.
I don't really pride myself on being like a real talented guitarist either, but I always feel accomplished when I learn one of your songs by ear. I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah. Do you write music too?
Yeah, here and there, but yeah, your music is so catchy, and I always find myself getting a guitar to play along with it. I've learned Adidas Moon,
Oh,
Sadie Hawkins, LSD Saves, stuff like that.
LSD Saves is a fun one to play. Yeah.
That solo, that solo
Yeah.
is so
Yeah.
fun.
I can't, some of those songs, it's like I don't even remember how to play them. So I'll have to like sit there. Like we did a little tour a couple of years ago in Australia, and it was like impossible. Like I couldn't learn any of my old songs. And I was like, what? How did I do this? And then it's like you realize, like, oh, you did cooler things when you were younger and didn't know any better. And so I'm like doing these weird changes and stuff. The problem with the writing songs when you get to a certain point is you'll be playing around and you'll be like, oh, that part's so cool. And I just had this happen where it's like I had some part that I was really proud of, and then I realized it's just Neil Young. Like it's just that somebody else is doing that part. Shit, that sucks.
Man, we're similar in that with I have a song where I was, doing the little riff, and then I'm like, wait a minute. This is just Harvest Moon. I just ripped off Harvest Moon.
Yeah. I think, he might be one of those things that just creeps into your brain, but also just steal it, Like sometimes you have to just take I was reading about that Heart song, Barracuda, and
Mhm.
I forget who they were on tour with, some like band, I don't know, that I'm not into, like Styx or some shit like that. And then they had this riff that they were like messing around with, and they realized it was the band that they were like either headlining over or opening for. And and then they were just like, I don't know, fuck it, I'm taking it. And then they made a huge hit out of somebody else's song. And it's like, all right. If you don't do it, I think that there's a difference of if you do it like intentionally to steal, or like to like really kind of just kind of jump on somebody's bandwagon. that's kind of a bummer. But if you naturally came to something because you like those influences, it's the same shit. You know, it's like we were just talking about the Dead Moon record, and it's like, you know, I really like that record. And I didn't own it. I didn't, you know, it was probably some friend of mine played it a lot. And then it's like I caught like the other day listening to it, I was like, oh, that's this drum part that I play, or that's a guitar thing that I do too in this other song. But it wasn't like I was actively, you know, it's like trying to rip it off. And then you
Yeah.
have this stuff that's like, you know, I don't know, like things that sound good to everybody. I mean, music's math, you know, you're gonna hit patterns and stuff.
It's
I don't,
inevitable. Yeah.
you have to be pretty thoughtful to not start doing stuff that other people have done, considering we've been doing this thing since like we were like crawling out of caves or whatever. You know, like I mean, I did this when I was younger a lot, where it's like I might find something like that's a song of somebody else's, and then I'll realize it's somebody else's, but I still like the part. And so I'll like reference the artist. Like there's like a song on the first Harlem record called Disneyland, and that has a part where I go, yeah, I like the Ramones because the chorus is basically a Ramones part, you know? And so it's like, as long as you're kind of like check marking it in some way where you're like, yes, I know what I'm up to, or not, I don't know. You could do
No,
any way you want, but I don't think that there's anything. There's what is 12 notes, you know? Like almost all songs are in 4/4 time. There's no way you're not going to hit somebody else's shit. It's impossible.
another friend of mine also said this a long time ago that like no one owns chords. You know, you're free to use them at your disposal at whatever you want to.
Like, I don't know. There's bands that I think probably have a bit more of like an ironic thing, you know, where they like some part of something. Like I don't know. I like Pantera, you know, and
Mhm.
Pantera's a cool band, sort of. You know, they're, but it's like way out of my wheelhouse. So if I were to rip off Pantera in some way, there would be this kind of weird detachment that I'd have with it, you know, where it's like I can't be like Dimebag Daryl. It's just not fucking happen, you know. But I can also like if I listen to Pantera, I can like totally access like, oh, I can see why this is so powerful, you know, especially when you're young and you're kind of like fuck everything, you
and
know.
and that would be such a like a curveball to the listener of your stuff. Is like what Coomers is going in a Pantera direction.
It would be cool to do a record. Like I don't think I have it. Like I wish I could do all that. I tried a double bass drum, like doing you know, two pedals so that you can get that, and it's really hard.
um, so what came first for you, the guitar or the drums?
Guitar. My dad, he wasn't really a musician, but he liked, he was the kind of dude who would like, he had this friend of his who played at the like country bar in Tucson, and who was like a country band guy, you know, went to Nashville kind of shit. And then uh, he would go up and sing, they call me the breeze, I keep blowing down the road. And like, so he would do like that song on stage, and he'd play it like he had like a harmonica, and he thought it was cool to do music. So he bought me this really cheap, little Memphis Strat ripoff that I still have. But so yeah, I had a guitar first, but I didn't know how to play it at all. And I took like 2 lessons, and it was like this dude at like the local guitar shop who was wearing like a Sepultura sweatshirt and stuff and just did not want to fucking teach guitar lessons. And so I'm like in there with him, and I was like, this sucks. Like this is boring. I don't want to do this. And so I put the guitar away, or you know, whatever, threw it in the closet. And then like I saw my friend's band, Seth, from Hunks and His Punks. He's also from where I'm from. And his band played at a party at his house. And it was like none of them were particularly good at their instruments or anything like that. But I was like, oh shit, you can do this. with that thing, and then immediately it was like I gotta pull it out. And so that's how I got into music.
This was gonna tie into two questions that I had. Like, do you remember what age you first gained interest in creating your music? And was also gonna ask, were there any family members of yours that played music as well? But yeah, this is like that all checks.
I'm jumping ahead. Yeah, so it was like 13 when I got, or 12 or something when I got the guitar. Probably saw Seth's band when I was like 14 or something, and then started. I was into, I don't know. I was into visual art at the time. I mean, I still am, but like so, I didn't really know what music. I just didn't know you could do it. I didn't know it was like a thing. And then so the first all like so Seth and I started a band called the Heavy Metal Band, which wasn't heavy metal at all. But and like and then it was just like I didn't even know what chords were. I didn't know how a guitar worked. So I just thought you just bang on one part of the neck and then you bang on another part and that's a song. I like literally I think I was like played guitar from the age of 13 and didn't learn like what a C chord was until I was like 22. Like I had no clue how this instrument worked, you know.
Wow.
But I didn't have any real like my dad was I wouldn't say he was a musician. He was just kind of like really into music and uh and my mom was too. She like wrote a college essay on like listening to the Beatles in headphones, and like how that changed listening to music and stuff. And then my dad was like, I hate the Beatles, I love the Stones. It's like this, there was only
Like a
two.
clash.
Yeah, yeah. But so yeah, not but I didn't grow up with any like musicians in the family or anything.
Any records you recall being fond of during those formative years?
Um, well, like I said, the punk stuff, it's like I like the Doors, and stuff like stealing from my parents' record collection. I liked all of the stuff that was sort of psyche when I was like 13 or something. And then I got into punk and it was like X and a lot of those LA bands and the Ramones and stuff. And then oddly, the weird one that I always go to is like there's a Germs cover of the Chuck Berry song Round and Round. And it's like he doesn't have as much of a growl in his voice as he does on like the album. Like it's like a single or whatever. I don't know what it was on, but I somehow had it. And that like cadence, like the way that Darby Crash sang in that one song, I was like, oh, this is cool. And like somehow I want to tap into that. And it was just this one song, you know.
Wow. And I also read somewhere that the Zombies best of that one was really
Oh yeah,
important to you.
that was huge. Yeah, I didn't have a lot of records, of my own. This is kind of dating me as being like an old man or whatever, but at the time, you could go to a record store or you could buy like from a mail order catalog or something, but it would be like $20 for a record and it wouldn't show up for another 6 weeks or something like that. So it was like kind of a big investment to buy a record, because you were like, oh, this shit better be good by the time I actually get it, and you were reading like Maximum Rock and Roll for like a review that was like a paragraph that said, this is sounds like this. And that was all you had to kind of go off of like, what is this record going to sound like? So it's like the Zombies, I don't know where, probably Seth, got me into them or like tuned me into them. And then like, yeah, that I just had a best of and it was like nonstop. Like Tell Her No, that song like was on all the time.
Was Coomers the Explosion one of the first bands you also played in?
Well, so that was so the band I was in with Seth was called the Heavy Metal Band, which wasn't really band. Like I think we played like one house party or something. And then I had this history teacher in high school named Henry Munson, and he was kind of he was fine. I wasn't making fun of him or anything, but I found out he played drums and I was like, oh, it'd be cool if we started a band called the Munson Explosion. And I told him about it. and he was like this like whatever 48-year-old dude, and he was like, I think you're making fun of me, so no, I'm not interested in joining your band. And I was like telling Seth about it, and I was like, yeah, that really sucked. And Seth had a little record label at the time called Super 8, and he was like, well, I think if you started a band called Coomers Explosion, I'd put out your first single or whatever. And I was like, okay, cool, yeah, let's do it. And then he played drums for a bit, but he had his own shit going on, so it was like that was that was like the first band, where it was like, I guess it was my band, because it had my name in it. But I felt limited by that. And I was also really young. So I was like, I don't know, 15, 16.
Um, did Curtis play in that record?
No, he joined. So then had that band, and then I got bored of that, or I felt like it was kind of like it was stuck in this like sort of sound that was like me yelling into a microphone without any idea of what's going on. So then I started this band called Teen Suicide. There's a more like a band now that's out there called Teen Suicide, but we weren't that band. And it was probably 10 years before they were called that.
Wow.
Um, and then so that one, I I don't know if Curtis was the first drummer. I don't think he was. There was this guy Hector who was in a punk band here in Tucson called the Weird Lovemakers, and Hector played drums first, and it was kind of like it was like I was getting into like uh, more like post punk or like I don't know, The Cure and stuff. So it was a little bit more angular and a little bit more melancholy music. And Curtis Curtis played drums for that for some amount of time, and he was kind of yeah, it was sort of the way he played drums later on too, where it's like he's kind of like right about to fall off the drum kit, but everything kind of like catches at the right moment, you know. But then yeah, so that was the first time I played music with him.
Did you guys cross paths in high school as well?
Well, we didn't go to the same high school. He was from the north side of Tucson, and I was from the west side, but we somehow had a mutual friend, and and then like they introduced us, and Curtis was, even at that time, he was kind of like seemed kind of wild. I was like, oh, who's this dude? And so yeah, we knew each other pretty young. But yeah, I mean, I was like 17 or 18 when I left Tucson. So it must have been he was in a band. We were in a band together since when we were like 16.
Okay. So yeah, I was reading that you guys kind of jump back and forth from like I believe you're in San Francisco for a bit. He was in Nashville.
Yeah.
You guys ended up migrating to Austin. And is that when you guys started writing songs for Free Drugs?
Well, we started, yeah, he was in Nashville and I was in San Francisco, and I was in Bay Area, I was in Oakland. Well, yeah, back and forth. And he I don't know. We were both at this weird time where we were just kind of like, I don't know, is this it? What are we doing? Like I had a little house, and I was dating this girl that I really cared about and stuff, but I was also kind of like seeing the walls kind of closing in, being like, shit, am I just gonna get a job and then this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life? And he was kind of feeling the same way, working at some restaurant and also dating this woman, Val. And he was like, do you want to just come out to Nashville and like fuck up our lives? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I went and moved to Nashville with him, lived in his house with his girlfriend. And of course, they were like fighting, and she didn't want me there and stuff. And we would just write songs all day long in his living room. And and that was how we started doing band. Some of those songs ended up on Free Drugs. I'm not sure if all of them did. We ended up recording with this guy in Chattanooga, named Mike, and he had a little recording studio on the second floor of this building. And so we did like, I don't even have it. I wish I did, but there's like these kind of like this early like 5 song. We made a CDR and we would sell it at the 2 or 3 shows that we had, and of course nobody bought it or anything. And I don't even know if I have a copy of some of those songs anymore, which is a bummer because some of them were fun.
Free Drugs came out in 2008, and I read somewhere that that was recorded in a place called Sugar Mountain in Oakland, California, and in Tucson with a guy named Jason. Is this
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah, those are half of it was recorded this guy Brian Hamilton, who still does music and does recording as far as I know, out of Oakland. And it was like, you know, it wasn't like a studio. It's like he had a little tape machine, and when we got there, I think we paid him like $200 to record the songs, and we got to stay at the warehouse they lived at. That was part of the deal. And he was like took the $200 and then he immediately ran to like the guitar store and bought like a preamp. And he's like, I got a preamp. And that was like, we paid for that to happen or whatever, and he was really stoked on it. Although I mean, I think he did a stellar job with like really a small amount of equipment and kind of did this cool thing. And he ended up being in bands. He was in bands before too, but I think he had a kind of cool, like, I think when somebody doesn't have a lot of stuff to work with and then they are really experimental with it or try to make the best of it, that can be a really exciting thing. Like it can make records that are like weirder than anything somebody who has maybe more access or more money could ever really do. So Brian did half of it. We slept on these like lazy boys in the living room of his warehouse. And then we went to Tucson, and this guy, Jason, he did recordings, and he had a little 8-track reel to reel that only 7 tracks worked on. And then he brought it over to my mom's house, and we recorded in my mom's house in the living room, like threw her couch in the yard and stuff. And so half of that record's there.
Yeah, and I read that you guys, recorded that record in like the amount of $400 or something like that.
It was pretty cheap. Yeah. I think that, yeah, I think everybody was like, it's hard to also kind of understand this thing, which was that like pre-internet sort of blog shit where a band could blow up from the underground, or from like, I don't know if that even exists anymore. Blogs don't really. But the idea of like some band being able to access a bigger audience because they were putting stuff on the internet, that was just in its like sort of starting phase, you know? So most of this was all this world of like, you made a record for $200 and some label put it out and 100 people bought it, and that was considered a successful pressing or something like that. I don't think people started realizing you could make money until a few years later, and then that kind of changed a lot of stuff. Probably
Yeah,
for the
and I remember reading uh an interview of yours to kind of go back to what you were saying about you know making best with what you got, like
yeah,
uh short amount of equipment, and you mentioned that um that a lot of bands' first records are often their best because they have like pent up ideas and they're just ready to get them out there and things like that. So yeah, Free Drugs is a good example of that. How um, it just came out of nowhere, and well, I mean, because you guys didn't have releases before that, and it just came out of nowhere and blew up, in the blog sphere.
yeah, yeah. Like it's weird talking about blogs. Like it just seems like some, like horse and buggy or something. Um, yeah, I I mean, I think that I still stand by this idea. I don't also think I even came up with that concept. I think I probably read that somewhere that punk bands' first records are the best ones. Like I don't know if that's like some novel concept that I created, and I still stand by it to a certain degree. I do think that there is something cool when like it's like we were talking about in the beginning of this interview, where it's like how there's this access point that a 15-year-old can get into that you'll never access again, right? Like your first record when you're young, you're never going to be able to sound like that again because you're fresh and you have all these, it's like not just pent up ideas, but pent up anxiety and stress and like this drive to do something.
Mm.
And then that goes away to some degree, and then it's replaced by this kind of other thing where it's like this kind of I guess because I'm getting older now, it's like I'm starting to realize that like that anxiety doesn't necessarily dissipate, you just get older and you have it, and now you're like, oh shit, I thought I still get like pimples or something, and I'm like, what the fuck, I thought that was gonna go away, like, are you crazy? And like I thought that sort of weird energy that you have when you're, like, I gotta do this. Like somebody's gotta hear this, blah, 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 and it's like some of that's tempered, but it's like it changes, you know. The things that you feel when you're younger, you still feel when you're older. They're just tempered by other bullshit, But it's uh and then also young people are the ones who really listen to music, you know? Like I think most people get to a certain point and then they just kind of go back to the records that they liked when they were younger, you
Mm.
know? I can I find that kind of really depressing when I talk to people and then they're like, yeah, I just those old records are the only ones that are cool. I'm like, that's so lame. Like you sound so fucking boring and old and like dusty, but it's like, you know, like
Nostalgia.
yeah, it's nostalgia, but it's also about like it's like when you were when you were open to that thing. You know what I mean? It's like when you kind of were like zoning in on like heartbreak is as the first time you're going through heartbreak. Your first experiences like, oh, I'm feeling fucking sad. I'm gonna put on Elliott Smith because I'm feeling fucking sad, you know?
It's like you read my mind.
Yeah. No,
I
I
was
mean
gonna
he's a perfect example of it. And also like kind of timeless too.
I was gonna follow what you were saying with um this guy that I used to record music with. He told me one day like he read a study where it says that people they always resort back to, like you were saying, like their early um impressions on music, like their first go-to records, whatever. That's what they bounce back to because of those sentimental values or whatever. And as you were talking, I was like, okay, that for me would be Nirvana, Elliott Smith, Harlem, just all these bands that I listened through high school, and like folk artists as well. So it's just yeah, man. Like I try, and I have been open to a lot of different genres, but there's always those random moments where I'm like, hey, let me listen to some Harlem, Elliot,
I mean, some of that stuff, it does, like, it's like, it doesn't really matter, it's like, you're not wrong to like that stuff, it's like, there's records that I go back to that I listened to when I was really young too. I guess when I was kind of dogging on people for like only liking that, for being like stuck there and like saying like, oh, kids today, they don't know shit, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we didn't know shit. Nobody knows shit. Like young people do have, again, it's that access thing. And then why would you be like, oh, it's young people shit, you
mm-hmm.
know? It's like, well, young people can be into something that taps into that part. That conversation goes both ways. When I was young, I liked, I don't know. I mean, I don't know when I got into like Leonard Cohen as an example, but it's like, Leonard Cohen's cool and he's making records when he's like 60 years old. And it's like, but like a 14-year-old can be like, I understand Leonard Cohen, you know, and he understands me or something like that. And that's awesome, you know. It just doesn't seem to go the other way. There's not a lot of like people who are 60 who are like, oh shit, that 16-year-old just is fucking speaking my language, you know.
Yeah, I guess it ties into closed-mindedness, like the classic like, oh, there's no good music these days. It's like, yeah, there is. You're just sealed off from it
Yeah, yeah,
because you want to.
yeah. And because like things change and sounds change and melodies change and stuff like that, what's popular. I mean, like it's really hard right now because I do feel like we're in this kind of weird lull where it's like things are okay, like I like some of what's coming out and I try to access more of it, but it's like almost like that thing when like a trend kind of keeps, it's like there's all this push behind like one sound. Like I mean it happens with movies and television and art and all sorts of stuff where it's like people get into something and then all of these people say, "Well, oh, you like that? I'll do something exactly similar to that and then you can have more of it." Which happened also with garage rock, as well, or punk or hair metal, it's just like something gets a little stale after a while and it's like you just keep getting regurgitated the same shit over and over and it's like you're just ready for something else,
Yeah, like
whatever.
saturation.
Yeah, yeah.
So following the success of Free Drugs, y'all got signed to Matador and recorded Hippies in Costa Mesa at a place called the Distillery.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this guy Mike had a recording studio in Costa Mesa, which is like LA, near the water. And so yeah, we went to Costa Mesa and we like lived in like a really shitty motel while we recorded it, which was kind of fun, weird. Mike was really great. He's done like a bunch of records. The studio's not there anymore, but he was doing all the stuff for In the Red, which was a label. They're still a label, but so he did like I don't know the Strange Boys and a bunch of other bands in that kind of ilk. And he had a cool sound that was like I listen back to it now and it's like I'll listen to like a Strange Boys record and I'll be like, oh, yeah, he did that with us too. It's like and then he had all these things that he would tell people like that were total bullshit. Like one time he had an old Wurlitzer record player, like the kind at a jukebox and he was like, "Oh, I know what we should do. We should just hook that your guitar up through those speakers, and we'll mic those speakers." And I thought he was doing that just for me. I thought it was like some magical thing that I was getting, and then like somebody else was like, "Oh, he does that with every band." Like at some point, he just hooked it up, hooked them up through the record player. Um, but yeah, I mean, he was a good example, is a good example of a kind of engineer who had access to like all of this stuff that was cool. And then but he kind of organically grew it, like it was like, I don't need this, so I'm not gonna buy this, but I need this, and then I'm gonna really learn how to use that. You know what I mean? Which is cool.
Utilizing all these things at his disposal, but like experimenting with them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I actually was fortunate to catch Strange Boys twice in my hometown. Once was at a coffee shop, and the second time was at this venue that's like a historic landmark. It's like a theater, but they use it as like a concert venue now.
Cool. Yeah, they were fun. They were Ryan actually I don't know what the other guys are up to musically. But Ryan has a really good record that I like that came out a couple years ago or maybe last year. I think it's called Gestalt. And I don't know what he goes by anymore. But it's Ryan Gestalt. You could probably find it. But it's really cool. It's like I don't know. He still does good music.
Between the three music videos for Gay Human Bones, Friendly Ghost, and Someday Soon, all of which have this cool home video vibe to them, do you remember which one of those you had the most fun shooting for?
Well, they're different. The so uh, Gay Human Bones was made by this guy Justin Kelly, and he had a studio, or well, it was like a house, a warehouse they lived in, and he's like made movies now, and he was like the most professional. Everything was fun, everything was easy. The crew that he was working with were really cool, and it was like all of this, like that one was just really, we were in San Francisco playing a show, and we did it in like an afternoon, and he was great. Then this guy Ben and Aaron, these two guys who did this group called Focus Groups, made the Someday Soon video, and they came out to Tucson, and we had like a week off in Tucson, and I was dating somebody here, and so we went off to Bisbee, which is like this tiny mining town, and we were just partying and having fun, and so that was fun for a different reason. Um, and then the Friendly Ghost video, was that the other one?
Yes.
So that one was it was kind of, I mean, we ended up directing it because the guy who shot it was like, I don't want my name anywhere near this piece of shit. And we were like, okay. Um, but we did that around our house. Like we both, me and Curtis, lived in this house on Rowena that was like this dilapidated old farmhouse that had been moved up to North Austin like sometime in the 30s or whatever. And so that one was just like us dicking around at our house, So that one was also easy and fun. I don't know, they're all different. It's like, it's like I, people have like directors, I guess, or anything where you're working with different people. It's like they have different things that they do well, or make it fun, or don't. And there's definitely when it sucks. You don't want those days, but like if it's fun with one person, it might be fun with somebody else for a different reason. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And there's a clip in the Someday Soon video where y'all light up fireworks in a bathroom. And I thought, in a nutshell, I think that's how I would describe that period of Harlem. It's like controlled chaos, but damn it if it didn't look like the most fun.
That was really fun. But a controlled chaos it was not. It was totally fucked up. Like I was holding a bottle rocket, and for some reason I thought it was something else, and so I just held it, and the bottle rocket just shot all of the fireworks onto my thumb, and gave me a really severe burn. Like I had like my thumb was like really messed up, and I just painted it gold and pretended it didn't matter. And like I remember when they were editing the video, there was like me actually realizing like, oh shit, I'm burning myself. And I get this really sad face on. And I was like, you need to cut before that. Cause it's like, um, it's like I wasn't thinking clearly. Like, I don't know. I mean, like the part where my friend Bob and the girl I was dating, Alice, cut their hands and become blood brothers, like that was real. Like that's not fake blood or anything. And it was like, and I'm like dating Alice, and I'm going, this is so not kosher. Like like I don't know where Bob's been, like what are we doing here? So yeah, it was pretty feral, but fun.
It was more uncontrolled chaos now the way you're
Yeah,
describing
yeah,
it.
it was not. Yeah, we weren't thinking clearly.
And on Prairie My Heart, you sing, well, now that I'm like, damn it, Genius isn't the most reliable lyric
It's
source.
not the most.
Uh, do you sing Texas is mysterious and lame, but I love her all the same?
I do sing that. That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was living in Texas, obviously. And I don't like it's fun. It's weird because it's like, like you're from there, and it's like it sounds like maybe I'm shit talking on Texas. It's a weird place. It's huge, fits on a belt buckle nicely, but it's also like it's also boring as shit. Like you've driven through West Texas, like there's nothing to see for it's like, what are we gonna pull off and go look at Odessa? Maybe Odessa's really, I don't like, so it's a different, but it's like cool. Like I was there, the most recent time I was there, was that ice storm. I mean, I've been through there since then. But that big ice storm that happened like 3 or 4 years ago or something, I was out in Nacogdoches staying at this guy Robert's house and his wife. Um, and uh and like, it was just like me. I was stuck in the middle of East Texas, for months. Like, well, I mean, because it was COVID, and then we got, longer story than that, but it was like it's a weird place and can be pretty lame, but it's mysterious and cool.
Yeah, because I also read an interview where you mentioned like kind of a fascination with Texas blondes, and then that reminded me of that one lyric on Sadie Hawkins, just making
Yeah.
like little connections there too.
Well, that was the thing. So the girl I dated, Lindsay, back we dated for a long time. Still love her. She's awesome. But she was from Texas. She was from Katy, Texas, which is just north of Houston. And like, I don't know. Everybody says y'all now. You know, it's like kind of parlance of like everybody. But I was dating her when I was like 20 or something. I think we met when I was 20. And she had a pretty thick Texan accent. And so it was like this like cool thing. And then we would talk about it. And then I always thought the idea of a Texas blonde being like a type, like, oh, Texas blondes, and it's like real Dallasy, but this kind of thing. So yeah, still love that type. It's kind of a dying breed. There's not as many of them around anymore.
And well, I know I mentioned Sadie Hawkins, and before we move on to like more lace curtain stuff, I just wanted to ask also about the, I would say, iconic mint green. Is it a Jazz Master, your guitar?
It's a jazz master. Yeah. It's I don't have it with it's downstairs, but I still play it. Yeah, love
Yeah,
that.
I was wondering like where did you acquire that one at?
Um, well, I bought it in San Jose off of some dude off of Craigslist, who was just not, I mean, I barely remember going to his house. I had had one before. So Musicians Exchange or Musicians Friend, something like that. Like the online company. I was in Kansas City living, and I didn't have a guitar. I didn't really play music at the time very much. And there was some deal where they had a scratch and dent warehouse, where it was like all the broken guitars or whatever. And you could go in there, but somebody told me that there's this guy who's really cool there. And if you seem like a weirdo, he'll give you like crazy deal on a guitar. So I went in there and I bought a black Jazz Master, exactly the same thing that I have as green now. And I think I paid like $200 for it. I mean, it was just absurd, like where the dude was like, yeah, just take it, and it's like, oh, awesome. And then I was living in a dentist's office in San Francisco on Mission Street, and like people would walk in because they thought it was a business or something. I also don't know if this is actually what happened, whether somebody walked in, somebody stole it. It also could have been some roommates of mine who were selling stolen stuff to buy drugs. So it's really hard to tell where it got. But I had this black one and I loved it, and then it got stolen. And so I bought the green one, like just off some guy off Craigslist. But so I do feel like kind of like I got the one that was necessary for me to have. Um, but yeah, it's actually the second Jazz Master.
Wow.
But I love that
And
guitar. They're really they're fun to play. It's easy. They look cool. I'm also like sort of a bigger person, like size wise, and like Stratocasters look really tiny on me. Like I feel like I look like I would always play Curtis's when I would break a string on tour, and it's like it just feels like a tiny guitar for like a person who's like a certain width.
and is the Jazz Master the one you've played on most of your records?
Yeah, except I didn't have it with me in New York when I recorded the first Lace Curtains album. So that one's actually this little black Hagstrom that I had to buy while I was in New York. I wasn't intending on making a record out there. I wasn't even intending on being out there, but was there, and a friend of mine, this guy Matt Tong, who is a musician, was like, "I'm not doing anything for the next couple of months. You want to do some recording?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've got a bunch of songs." So I had to grab a guitar from a guitar store, and I just bought like this little Hagstrom. It's cute, but it's like annoying because it has a bunch of pickup switches that all like need to be resoldered. But
Yeah, speaking on Matt Tong, did you go to any block party shows while he was still playing with them?
well, so we met, me and Matt. He was in a band called Whiskers before Block Party, and I was going to school in London. I went to an art school in London for a year when I was 20, I think at 21 or something. And so I lived in the east side of London in this like warehouse, and I would walk to school every day. And then one day I saw him and this guy Bobak. Bobak's an artist now. He still does music too, I think. But so Matt and him were in this band Whiskers, and I didn't know anybody in London, and I saw two weird looking dudes with instruments. So I was like, "Hey, you guys in a band or whatever, like some weird dorky shit." And and they were like, "Who's this weird American guy?" And I was like, "Can I join your band?" And they were like, "Sure, whatever." So that was how we became friends. And Block Party wasn't even a band. Kelly, the main guy, kind of poached him from us. Like he was like, I remember him coming by some point, and like we were at a party, and he's like, "Oh, you've got to meet this drummer I know. They're so good at drums." And I was like, "Yeah, Matt's really good at drums, and he's playing." And it was like Whiskers was really Matt and Bobak's band. I just kind of jumped in for a little bit. But yeah, but Matt, he was able to like buy a house and stuff, so I think he made the right decision. I saw Block Party. I mean, I remember I saw them at like some big show when that was all kind of like happening, like all that like British post-punk kind of revival thing. I wasn't really into it. I liked like the head coats and shit. I like veer more into like a sort of more messy sound than a lot of that. I mean, Matt's like a killer drummer. Like he's amazing, and he can play like so fast and like fairly like, I mean, he's got good tempo and all of that stuff. And it's like I even in that recording, I remember feeling like you gotta need a little sloppier, like you know, and like he's just such a good drummer that it's like it's hard for him to even do that.
Equally iconic, I would say, is that big old bass drum. I call it the bass drum of death because I bet that sucker is probably a pain to lug around on tour.
It, it's not heavy; it's just massive. I got that at a store in Valdosta, Georgia for like $50. I thought it was cool looking. The guy had like a music shop that I think was really just like some weird place that he would go hang out. And like so we had a bass player before Jose, this guy Christian, and Christian hated it. Christian thought it was so embarrassing that we had this gigantic bass drum. And like I can understand that, but it's also like, showbiz, to use that word, is like pretty dumb stuff. It's like you kind of have to do like weird sticky shit to get people to kind of like understand that you're a brand, like you're a band or something. You know what I mean? Like I think Jack White's fairly corny, right? Like I'm not. I love that first record that he did with the White Stripes on Sympathy. It's just like him and Meg out in front of a house or something like that. It's like none of the hits, just a fucking solid record. Um, but somebody was telling me that he has this thing where he does like color coded like band stuff, where it's like blue is his solo project, and like green is like this one band, and the White Stripes are red and white or whatever. And
Hmm.
it's like you think about it and you're like, oh, it's kind of dorky, but it's like it instantly is recognizable. Like you instantly know which, like, oh, that's blah 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 because he's got the blue fucking light on or whatever. And so like a big bass drum is kind of a dorky thing, but it's like then people would be like, whoa, that's a big bass drum or whatever. You know, it's like that kind of bullshit. But it's like that's showbiz, you know, for better or worse.
Yeah, just like unique standouts.
Yeah, you gotta have something that looks weird.
And yeah, you just answered my question then. Like I was gonna ask, was it yours or Curtis's, the bass drum? So it was
Well, it's
you.
at his house now, still in Texas. So I consider it mine because I bought it for $50, you know. Um, but and it's actually Slingerland. I don't know. It's just a marching bass drum that had legs on it. But it's an old one. Uh, I don't know. I hope to see it again someday. It's kind of annoying because the heads are really expensive.
I remember a long time ago reading an explanation you had on the title Garden of Joy and Well of Loneliness. And I do know Well of Loneliness is like a novel title, but can you explain a little bit of what Garden of Joy is?
Well, so my understanding of it was that there were two bars, both both gay bars. I think one of them ended up like I don't know the whole story, but I know that there's the novel as well, which may have been named after one of the bars. But I like the idea, and these were like pre-Stonewall, you know, bars in New York City, you know, and so I like the idea that like at any given night, the same clientele, and this might not be true, but the same clientele could have gone to a bar called the Garden of Joy or the Well of Loneliness. I thought that idea was really cool. Like it's like you might be at the Garden of Joy, but you know the Well of Loneliness is back in the periphery somewhere where it's like you're gonna get back there, you know. So
Oh,
that's
that's
where
cool.
the
Uh, this is a random question. Uh, do you have mixed feelings on Lou Reed?
I mean, everybody should. He's a mixed bag, you know, like he's got amazing songs, amazing lyrics, amazing performances. You know, he's also got some fucking garbage, you know, and even garbage that people like. Like, I don't know what people like about that Berlin album. Cannot fucking find it. You know, I know people say it's a masterpiece. I can't hear what I'm supposed to hear in it. But even past that, he also just seems like a curmudgeon guy, you know, which I actually like too. You know, it's like that's why you have mixed feelings. It's like, you know, I think that there's like this type of hater that I'm attracted to, like, you know, like Marquis Smith from the Fall and people like that, where it's like Lou Reed, where it's like they're smart enough to hate articulately, and so you kind of understand why they hate the way that they do. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's no denying like Lou Reed being like this huge influence, you know, he just is.
And this is this is how now I'm gonna kind of expose myself on how old I am. But when Vine was a thing, I remember you posted like a funny Vine with Lou Reed, like a close up of I don't know if it was Perfect Day or one of his hits, and it was just like zooming up on his face or something.
Huh. No, I don't even remember that. I loved Vine. I thought it was like the coolest app because it did this like weird thing where the loop was really good, you know? There was no glitch in between like the start and stop of it. And so it made everything really musical. You know, like you would hear like somebody would be filming outside and you'd just hear birds calling in the background and it would just sound really nice. I don't remember doing a Lou Reed one. Uh, but yeah. I don't know. I actually have thought so I had a Vine that went viral actually. Um I was house sitting a cat and I filmed this cat pulling money off of a table that I had like, you know, $30 or something on this counter and it's just pulling money and like for whatever reason it became like called Money Cat and it had like I don't know like a million views or something like that and I even got contacted by some lawyer being like I understand you represent Money Cat and I was like what the fuck is this? But yeah, so Vine was fucking awesome. So I've lost videos of things that I'll never have back. I don't know where. There's probably some like warehouse somewhere in the middle of nowhere with these dusty computers that have all of the Vine videos. I want mine back.
Was Bedroom Honesty inspired by a Craigslist casual encounter?
No, no, I just did that as like, I don't know. I think those used to be cool. I don't know if they even exist anymore. But I was like obsessed with casual encounter like ads because it would be like you could see into some person's weird world. Um, but no, Bedroom Honesty was just, I don't know, it's just another relationship song. Breakup, feeling sad.
And I'm bringing up Vine once again, but I remember,
Cool. This is like a really Vine heavy interview.
no, just because, so a signed piece of paper came out in 2014, and like we said, Vine was around that time, and so I was listening to Garden a lot, but I remember seeing a Vine you shared of like a tape machine, showing like a little snippet of like ooh,
Oh,
and that ended up being the ending on Wilshire, you know.
oh. I have no idea what vines I used to do. I'm not. That's cool that you even remember that. No, I have. Yeah, well, sure was. I don't know if it was. It's so cool to date this with Vine. Like, yeah, well, Signed Piece of Paper was a very heavily influenced by Vine album. No, I'm just
I remember hearing that snippet, and I was wondering, who's the woman singing harmonies with you on that and other tracks like The Fly,
That's
Cali?
this woman, Lady Shacklin. Basically, I was talking to the guy with the engineer in the studio, and I was saying I really want a woman, a backup singer on some of this record. And he was like, "Well, we know this person or this person." And I was dating this girl at the time, and she was really into good funk records. And so I was listening to a lot of like really cool music that was like stuff I hadn't really like. I always like Parliament, but she was like into like some more, a lot of like weirder shit or less weird maybe even. But and so they were talking and he was like, "Oh, I know this like indie rock singer or whatever." And I was like, I don't know. That's not really the vibe I'm going for." And he's like, "Well, I know this Lady Shacklin, who does all of the hooks on rap albums we work on." And I was like, "Yeah, have her come in." And so she came in and she was like, cool and she was fun and she didn't call it a chorus. I'd be like, "Yeah, can you sing on the chorus?" And she's like, "You mean the hook?" And I was like, "Yes, I mean the fucking hook." Like that's so cool. Like so she was great. I don't know what she's up to or anything. She was literally came in for a day. It was super fun to work with, had a great voice and then bounced and I never heard from her again. But I'm sure she's out there. She still. Probably has an amazing voice. I hopefully she has records out. I should check out if she has records.
And well, you just mentioned the funk albums a little bit, and I barely found out recently that uh Boardwalk to the Alps was kind of like an ode to Sly Stone.
Yeah, yeah. So um at the time I was living in LA, that was where I was dating the girl. And she had really good taste and like really good taste in funk records and she really liked that There's a Riot Going On record. That song like Just Like a Baby, she kind of zoned in on that and I was like, "Oh, that song's awesome." And then Sly was living somewhere in LA, and like was kind of on, had definitely hit some rougher patch of the road. And so like I thought like writing a song about, I don't know if it's really about him. It's hard to say. It's like, there's some like kind of weird nebulous thing where it's like he exists in that song. The song is sort of about him, but it's also like more broad than that. But like the idea of like, used to make records in gold, now I'm making them in tin. It's like, that's not about me. I never had a gold record, but he did, you know? And like, so it was, yeah, but that song's about him. Yes.
Also, kind of talking about gold. I love the video for Pink and Gold.
There's a video for Pink and Gold. Did I
It,
do it?
it's the one where you're in like a venue introducing like comedians.
Oh yeah, shit, I forgot about that one. Yeah. Well, so I knew a couple of comedians in LA, and I was sort of obsessed with the idea of comedians bombing. I had seen it happen a couple of times, like full on like nervous breakdowns on stage. And I was like, I really wanted to do a music video where somebody bombs on stage, which doesn't end up happening in the video. You know, I was really hoping for it to be more. It's kind of it's like weird meta because the person, uh, all of the people who were a part of that video really kind of hated it. And they were like, this, I just find, they didn't like the way they came across on camera and blah, blah, blah. And like everything about it was, so it was like, it kind of was like this bomb for them. But I wanted it to be like more of a story of a bomb, you know? I don't know. You know what I mean? It,
Okay, so I remember, like seeing one or two of those comedians on social media, and they were actually like you said, established comedians. But then that like unknown guy at the end, I'm not sure if he's an actual comedian, but
yeah.
yeah, it was cool to see like the story of like someone that you think is gonna bomb actually does really well.
Well, that's, yeah. So, yeah. So that was like, it kind of got out of my hands at a certain point and was like, you know, like basically that was the happy ending. I wanted the sad ending. I wanted it to be bleaker and more real. Like I wanted it to just be like I wanted to like I've never done comedy. I don't think I would be very good at it. I but I feel like it's relatable in this weird way of like the kind of like it's like all of the things, it's it's like when it goes bad, it's like saying something embarrassing in front of your crush or falling down or something. It's like all of those feelings like so heightened. Um, but yeah, everybody likes a happy ending.
And I also read an interview where you shared that you had a bug problem in one of your apartments, and then well, this provided context for me on your album artwork for that.
Oh yeah, no. So yeah, I went and visited a friend in New York, and they were like, "Oh, we had bed bugs like 2 months ago or something," and I didn't think twice about it and put a bag on the floor, and then brought him back over to LA, and it was a fucking nightmare. Now I'm like super vigilant, like once you have that happen to you, it's so awful because like you can't sleep and it's just like it's really gnarly. So I recommend to anybody watching this and you to really try to avoid ever getting bed bugs. They're a nightmare.
Where was a signed piece of paper recorded at, by the way?
Um, it was so a lot of it was done in Austin at these kind of random studios that are all run by this guy called Fifth Street Studios. This guy Ryan has these. He has these very nice studio. Like I mean, like he has the stuff. He has like these Neve mixing boards and everything's like super fancy and it's like all of the shit. But then some of it was recorded. So this guy Dan out of LA, who's a friend of mine, he did he played on a lot of that record, and he came. I rented a house, or I rented part of a house in LA, and we just set up. He had like he used to have this Tascam 388, which is like this 8-track reel-to-reel machine. And so we set it up in the living room of the house and would just like record music there. So it's like some of it's recorded there. Some overdubs were done in Tucson at that first studio that I recorded the Coomers Explosion album at. And then a lot, but most of it was mixed and finished in LA or in Austin. And then some of it was actually done with this guy Nathan. He used to have a studio in Tucson, so it's kind of all over. That's an album from a lot of different sources. Yes.
And 3 years later, in 2017, you reunited with Curtis and did some string of shows. I actually I had the fortune of catching you guys in Hotel Vegas. I think the night Hurricane Harvey hit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Were you at the show? Did we have to play inside or was that the outside show?
It was out. It was inside. Saw
Oh,
you guys.
okay. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, so yeah, that happened.
Um, I wanted to I wanted to mention that like I went up there just you know I was planning to just catch you guys that night and head back to my town. I went up there with a buddy who lives in San Marcos, and I remember after the show, well, it was gnarly weather,
Yeah.
and I had my bus ticket ready to come back home, and I
Mhm.
remember just waiting and waiting for the bus, and then one of the I guess drivers comes and he's like, "Hey man, we're we're not
Yeah.
we're not traveling in this weather. Like we're sorry, we'll give you a refund, but yeah, there's like no departures for like the foreseeable week or so." And I was like,
Oh,
"Damn."
where did you end up staying?
With my buddy in San
Oh,
Marcos
oh,
was
San Marcos isn't that far. Yeah. So you made a weekend out of it? Was it at least fun?
yeah, but I felt kind of like a freeloader for taking up all his food and stuff. But I, paid him back. But it was just like, damn, a one night turned into a week.
No shit. Yeah. I suppose that's kind of what happened with me in Nacogdoches with that storm and stuff. I think my friend was intending me to live at their guest house. They have like a little farmhouse out in the country, and like they had like this guest area. And like then the storm happened, and I was like, I can't leave. And like then, so I was there for like months. For that had more to do with COVID, and then we started doing some music stuff. But yeah, I'm sorry that I hope you had a good weekend out of it. I'm sorry you got stuck.
That
Uh,
was great.
yeah, okay, good.
And 2 years later, in 2019, you guys put out "Oh Boy" on Valentine's Day. On that, I was wondering, did Jeff and Robert play on the actual record, or were they just in the live band?
No, they played on the record. Jeff is a really good drummer. So I came out, so we did the thing. You saw us, if it was a Texas show, I think that was preceding us going to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And so so we played that show. I think we just played that as a three-piece still. And then like a year later or something, we started trying to write music. And I think me and Curtis were both kind of like out of chops with drums. And, like I was trying to do stuff that maybe was like a little bit harder than just a rock and roll beat. And, vice versa, probably. So Jeff played drums, and then Robert was the guy who I stayed with in Nacogdoches, and he played bass. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Jeff is probably the drummer on every song. I'm not sure if Robert plays bass on every song, but he probably does. And then there was like a handful of other people that would kind of sneak in and out of the studio.
Yeah, the reason I recall the Australia thing is because I remember maybe during that week I was with my buddy. I saw a picture of you with a koala.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love that photo. That koala was like, I mean, they're cool. If you ever get the chance to hold a koala, everybody does it. If you go to Australia, apparently it's just this thing. Like if you see, like you could literally Google like any band's tour of Australia, and there's probably a photo of them holding a koala. But it's cool, and they're weird, and they like grab hold of you. Mine actually shit on my shirt, and it was like this shirt I really loved. It was like uh, and I was like, oh, it's cool, like it's like koala shit, like I got, on this fancy shirt I had, it's like it was stained forever. And I'm like, but I had to go to Australia and get some random weird animal I've never seen before to shit on this shirt. It's like a lot of work to get that stained.
It made your shirt exotic.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So this is how much I've listened to your stuff that I actually I have observations on and I'm not throwing shade or anything, but
No, no, go for
I noticed there's three words that often appear in
it.
your songs. And so the first one is Angel, which is featured on Lana, Wilshire, Glass of Sand. So
Oh,
I like, how you include it in your projects that are spread out.
sure. Was that the one word that comes up a lot?
And
Were
there's
there
two
other
more.
ones?
Dog is another frequent
Okay.
one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Comes out in All Men Are Dogs, Cleopatra, Tropic of Cancer, Glass of Sand, Death to America, Crocodile Tears,
Yeah.
101 Dalmatians, and Tender Whatevers.
So between those two, I mean, with Angel, it's like, I don't know, it's like religious iconography plus the sort of 50s doo-wop thing where it's like angel baby kind of stuff. It's like it's the nice word, right? Like you imagine somebody with feathers and the halo and stuff. So that one I like. Dog seems like it's like the stand-in for all of these things, right? Like it's like man's best friend, but it's also like Cujo, or it's like you know, a dog as a derogatory term, it's just like this perfect weird thing. So I don't, I've never actually owned a dog. I mean, my family had dogs when I was growing up, but I've never had a dog that's my dog. Um, I don't even think like I like dogs. They're fine. Like I'm not like an anti-dog or anything, but it's like I like them as like an idea so much. Like I keep coming back to I have a whole Spotify playlist that I made that's just called Dog Singing. And it's every song where somebody either has a dog that's howling in the song or somebody makes a dog a bark sound in the song. And it's like, so I don't know. I think the dog's one. What's the third one?
Okay, before I reveal the third one, are
Oh,
you wearing
sorry.
a dog shirt? Is that a
Oh
dog?
yeah, yeah. So this is actually a student. I was teaching an art class on silk screening at middle school in LA, and this is this girl Ella's design of a dog.
I dig it.
I loved her. Yeah, her drawing took 5 seconds, and the class was like an entire semester. And she was like, "I'm done," and we were like, "Okay, well, cool."
Okay, the third one is Birds on Fountains of Blood, Wilshire, again, All Men Are Dogs, and In the Forest with the Vultures line.
All right. So okay. Not to be like too like tie it all together, right? But angel being like this sort of cosmic thing, right? And then dog being this like centered, it's your dog. It's human, it's us, we're together, blah blah blah. And then bird is like sort of in this in between. It's kind of like nature, right? It's ephemeral, it's not connected to anything, but it is of the earth. So that I don't know. Also has feathers, also can be kept as a pet. There's like this nice flow chart, but I don't know if that really means anything. But I was worried you were gonna say something like cool is the word that I use too much, or some like weird ones that are like so dumb. Like I was thinking the other day about how Charlie XCX has so many songs where she yells the word I. And I was like, and like a lot of songwriters get really pissed at, I think it's like a thing where it's like you don't want to write a bunch of songs that are either in first person or second person, where you go, I feel like I'm doing this, or you did something to me, and it's like that feels really kind of by rote. But then I like looked it up and it's like I have so many fucking songs where I say and it's like, well, it's just how do you write about your own experience without using that word?
And I also wanted to give you kudos for, you write these brilliant love songs, but I think I've only heard you actually sing love in just two songs, Be Good and Adidas Moon.
Oh, the word love.
Yeah.
It's a hard word. I think that that's had Like it's fucking crazy how many Beatles songs have the word love. You know what I mean? Like, and they like really like heavy on it. And it's like, yeah, it's like it's this super real feeling, but it's hard to kind of, I don't know. It's hard to say I love you, I guess. You know, I don't know. But yeah, thanks for the compliment. I don't know what I think that I've been for the stuff that I'm writing now, which may or may not ever fucking turn into a song or whatever, but I'm constantly messing with stuff. Um, it's like I think that the I'm trying to go back to something that's really like basic, like not basic in a bad way, but basic in like sort of fundamental.
Since you use this expression often and also from your public praise for her, would it be safe to say that Lana Del Rey is your spirit animal?
I I do love her music. Um, I right now it's one of those weird things where it's like I can't really listen to it right now. You know, it's not right at this moment. She's my spirit animal. She's definitely an icon and cool and interesting and weird. And I think that that's what I really like about her is that she's not really cookie cutter, you know? Like it's like she's not some Disney star. Like, you know what I mean? And she's not some hedge fund daughter, you know, hedge fund manager's daughter or something like that. So there's something cool about her that feels very specific and weird. But as goes spirit animal, right now it's hard to say that because it's like right now I feel like I don't even know if I have a spirit animal going right now. Maybe I should put her in the rotation again. I feel a little lost. But yeah, she's great. I really hope that whatever next album she does is a banger.
You know, and not to like, what's that expression? Like, not to like cater to the guest or anything, but like, out of all the, mainstream pop stars or just really well-known ones, I would say she's one of my favorites too. Like,
Oh, yeah. I mean, they all occupy a different space, right? Like there's different things like again, like bringing it back to like Pantera, right? Like it's like a new level of confidence. You know, it's like that fucking part has this function that I think is oddly similar to like Katy Perry in some of her like Roar or something like that. It's like this thing where it gets you like pumped and you're like, yeah, I can do it. Like I can do this thing. And then
yeah,
it's like Lana kind of occupies the space of like you're alone and it's like I can do this thing. I don't have to be confident. I don't have to be powerful. I can actually be more depressed or whatever. And it's like, that's okay, you know? So then again, it goes to that like you need records for different time periods that you're in. You know what I mean? And like that even applies to like, you know, a shitty garage rock band. Like I know that there are, you know, people have come up to me before and been like, oh, you know, like Harlem, that record was on like all summer long. We were just partying nonstop. And then I've had somebody come up and say, oh, you know, the Lace Curtains record actually, like I was in this really dark, sad place, you know, and that helped me through that. And I'm like, cool, I was there for both of these experiences for somebody. You know, it was like, because I have those with, I don't have them for my own records, you know, like all of my own records put me in a dark, sad place, you know, but like I have that for other people's records where it's like, oh, that shit, you know, like we were talking, the Elliott Smith, you know, whatever, or you know, like my dad had this thing with the Rolling Stones, and it's like for me, the Rolling Stones, like I'll put them on when I'm like freaked out and I'm driving, like if traffic's bad or it's raining or you know, I almost got into a wreck or something. I'll always put on the Rolling Stones because he drove around a lot when he was alive, and like and I kind of associate the highway with my dad, and like I associate the Rolling Stones as being on the radio. Not that that's the only band he listened to, but he liked them. And so when I'm like feeling nervous, I put on the Rolling Stones, not to like be like psych you out, but to make it you kind of like loosen your arm grip on the steering wheel and you're like, okay, I'm chill. This is fine. Like, you know.
comfort music.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's all supposed to be comforting, right? At some level, you know, and like that's the thing where it's like I don't know, like I haven't gotten to the point where I need Lizzo, you know, but somebody's out there who needs Lizzo, and it's like she's cutting off a slice for somebody who needs that thing, you know, and good for her. And I hope that that's the weird thing where it's like you take the most obscure, brutal, you know, I don't know, like a band like I'm trying to think, like Big Black or something like that. Like Big Black, like Steve Albini's band, great record, awesome. Not everybody's cup of tea, but for somebody, that's exactly the motherfucking thing they need. Like that's it.
Mhm.
I need that Big Black record to get me through this week at my job, with my relationship, for a fun party I want to have. I have no idea, But that shit, it's like, I mean, you're wearing a Thrasher skateboarding shirt, right? Do you skate?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you watch it in the way that people skateboard on. I used to skateboard when I was much younger. And you watch some people skate and they skate with a style that works well with like a heavier type of music. And then some people you couldn't put on that music. Like they need a chiller kind of like smoother sound, you
Mhm.
know? And so it's like, I don't know. There's no best stuff. That's I guess this was a long way of saying like it's like Lana's awesome. She occupies the space, but she's not the only card in the deck.
Right, right. And music is always gonna reflect the the listener too. Like right now, when you mentioned Panthera and Katy Perry, I quickly thought of like, okay, somewhere right now at this moment, somewhere are people listening to that while they're working out, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Completely different people too.
Yeah. Or the same. And I have literally worked out listening to Katy Perry and to Pantera. So there are some weird freaks like me who like both and
Yeah.
see the kind of like, how do you power through with Pantera? I also love the way that you just pronounce Pantera. You do it with a cooler accent. Your T is cooler. I want to start pronouncing them like that. But yeah.
Um, so I wanted to end this interview with you with a ranking list that I do with every artist that yeah, it's my personal favorites, but also mixed with some current favorites that I've been very fond of, and it's kind of like just an ideal playlist of mine. I even made one on Spotify to kind of just to see like if it flows well and all, and I'm pretty proud of it.
Cool.
And as I go through each song, if you could share like a little fun fact or tidbit that you
All
can
right.
share.
Sure.
So number 10 is In the Forest.
So a fun fact about In the Forest. I that song was written basically so that was written while I was in Nacogdoches during that storm. And there was like all of this shit where it was like a lot of dead animals and stuff, and tree branches were breaking off, and it was kind of gnarly. But I was also like thinking about that idea of like the movie Bambi, how man is in the forest, you have to beware, you know? Like it's like this scary thing of like, like that man is in the forest, you have to be careful. So in the forest was like this kind of looming fear, death, destruction kind of thing, which then fit really well with like a bunch of pine trees caving in on because they were covered in ice and shit.
Wow. Number 9, Cry Now, Cry Later.
So I don't really know. I think that was like maybe with the girl Alice I dated, where it was just this idea of like because it's like that tattoo, cry now, or laugh now, cry later, right?
Yeah.
And it's like this, like I like the idea of it just being like, oh, it's all fucked up forever. So yeah, I think it's like based on that kind of like the tattoo sort of, you know, thing.
I like that you do that. And my memory is so random. Like I can't remember what I ate 2 days ago, but I can remember like an obscure tweet of yours from God knows. I
You should
I
probably kind of remember less about obscure tweets of mine, but I feel like that might not be a good use of your brain. But no, I mean, you're like, as goes like not, and you said it too, like not to praise the in it, but as praise to the interviewer, like, I mean, you've obviously like, you know, did research and shit to get this. You're
thank
doing
you.
it.
I was gonna say, so what you did with Cry Now, Cry Later, I remember you tweeting something along the lines of like, it was the worst of times, it was the worst of times.
Oh, really? That's a good tweet. No, I don't remember that tweet, but yeah, yeah. No, it's cool. Yeah, doubling down. It also is like, as a lyricist, like repetition's always really nice, right? Like so because you want to keep saying the same word over and over again because then it's like that's showbiz. It's like
And
you
I'm a fan of dark humor, so I find it funny how like how you said like it's all fucked.
yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to segue Cry Now, Cry Later to my number eight, which also includes an alligator line in Crocodile Tears.
Mm. So that was also about that girl Alice. So crocodile tears, the idea is that when a crocodile eats, it actually like because of the way the bones are set up or its muscles, it as it chews, tears pour out of its eyes. And so the idea of a crocodile tears is that it's like this animal that's doing something awful and it's like, oh, I'm sad about what I'm doing, but it's not really sad at all. So um I just love the phrase so much. And then it's I one thing that I feel like is important to kind of like maybe mention that is like that I don't feel I like when I make somebody the character in a store in a song, it's not like it's all about them. It's not like it's like this burn where I'm going like, oh, she had crocodile tears. She's like this. Because it's also like that same reversal where it's like, I have crocodile tears. I know, I'm full of shit too. So I don't know. Feel like it's too rough when you have this idea of like it's all fuck you to somebody else. There's
Mhm.
also fuck me too. You know.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, because it's open for interpretation, but obviously, like an ex or someone's gonna hear it and be like, "Hey, is this about me?" Like,
Yeah, I've gotten past that. I've sort of like pissed off enough people about songs where they're in it that it's like, well, what are you gonna do?
and number seven, I went with Red Herring.
Oh, that's cool that you zoned in on that song. I love that song. It's actually one of my favorite songs I've ever written. It's actually the the riff that I was concerned when I listened to Dead Moon the other day, where I was like, oh, they have a song, But then if you slow it down, it sounds like a Nirvana song or something. So it's hard to tell where all of that stuff. Um, Red Herring was a kind of roughly about this. I mean, I think Curtis was dating some girl, and now everybody has tattoos, and everybody's had tattoos for a long time, but I remember kind of thinking that the red herring, your tattoo was a red herring being like this idea where somebody presents themselves as counterculture by having a tattoo. And, and I just was like, that's not real. Like you're just as square or basic as anybody is, you just have a tattoo. Um, but now that doesn't really mean anything because everybody has tattoos. So
Do
it's
you
like
have any?
I have a bed bug on my foot. That's it. From that bad experience, me and the girl were like, I don't have any tattoos otherwise. And the girl and she had a bunch of tattoos, and she was like, well, we could, you know, mark the moment. And I was like, all right, fine. So we have a stick poke, but it just looks like a little apple seed. But that's it. But it's like it's weird, right? Like you see it in the Olympics. I was watching, and it's like everybody has the Olympics rings tattooed on them. Every single one of those people, and it's just like it's so ubiquitous now. Do you have tattoos? I think I saw one on your arm.
Yeah, just it's a coffin, but a lot of people think it's like a diamond or something. I guess
Oh,
from an angle it looks like it. Let me see. Let's see like
no, yeah, I could see it as both. You could put a hinge on it or something, I guess, so that it's more.
well, have you ever heard of Death Grips?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is from one of their music videos called Birds. Fun fact, what's his name? Robert Pattinson plays guitar in that track
Oh, okay. Is that Edward from yeah.
from Twilight.
Yeah.
Uh, in the
He's
music
cool, right?
video,
Is he
what's
cool?
that?
Is he cool? I guess
I
if he plays guitar on like a Death Grips album, then he must be pretty cool.
I mean, at
I don't know
first,
anything about him.
at first, I just knew him as a Twilight guy and kind of dismissed him as that because I mean, that's not my cup of tea, right? But over the years, he's been one of my favorites actually. I love a lot of the movies he's been involved in, so
Yeah. Well,
I
cool.
I'm a stan of his now, I guess.
All right. It's cool. I was thinking there's like this video of him and the girl from Paramore, and like he's kind of like not really even clowning on her, but he's like talking to her about like how she says words. Like he's like, "You've got this song where you go here," and he does like this like impression of her singing it, and it's really fucking funny, and it's like cool. Like they seem like they're flirting and stuff, and it's like fun, and so I could see him being cool. I just didn't know anything. I didn't know he played guitar.
Yeah, it was like super surprising to me as well. And the music video for that song is very minimalist. It's just like literally maybe two or three 3D animations, and that's just the whole video. But one of them is a floating coffin, and I just always love the simple look of it. So I was like, why not just
Yeah.
get the first tattoo over with? Because I know how you said the bed bug thing has a meaning behind it, but mine was more just like I just want to get it done with, you know.
Well, yeah, except then there's like the subconscious, right? And it's like you gravitated towards this image that you like, right? Like it's like the same thing as you're asking, why do I sing so many songs about angel or dog or whatever? It's like you gravitated to that image, right? Like you said the coffin thing, floating coffin. And I thought about there's that it was like a meme for a while and it was Bobby from King of the Hill floating. Do you remember that meme? It
Yeah.
was fucking awesome. And it was like such a beautiful image, like so powerful because it's like this weird thing from like some kind of like random, like, oh, King of the Hill. Like, why is this? But it was like, it was cool, you know? And it's like, so we zone in on things that like, you know, hit that, scratch that itch in our brain. So I don't know. Coffin is about death, but it's about rebirth. It's about like the past, it's like there's all of that messaging into this one tattoo that you're just like, oh yeah, well, I just got a tattoo. But it's like you didn't just get a tattoo because you got that tattoo. What's the song Birds about?
Okay, so um basically about death. Yeah, he
Yeah.
the hook, he just keeps saying over and over, I got tomorrow coming. I got tomorrow coming. And the first verse I remember it being like I got a bluebird, but now it's dead. And like very bleak stuff, but like I just it was pulling the heartstrings for me at the time. I was into some really weird shit and well,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, that's cool that that's what the song is titled and like then yeah. So you might, even as like, like being a fan of that and then being like, oh yeah, like Harlem or whatever, like was a early band that I got into. It's like all of those things are tied together, too. You might actually be a Katy Perry fan. You have no idea.
I
Get
definitely
rolling.
go through phases, so who knows.
Yeah.
Number six is one that I said that I've been revisiting it, and it's become a new favorite of mine. And at the time, I really enjoyed it, but now more so. is Glass of Sand.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't know what like an anecdote about that one is. It's kind of like those like I remember the lyrics being like sort of those like non sequitur kind of like Zen phrases, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, and so it was just this sort of, but that one, yeah, to your like you saying the thing about somebody having a Twitter handle. Somebody I saw once where somebody had like an Instagram thing where it was like be the be the caveman, not the cave, or something like that, or the or opposite, be the cave, not the caveman. I can't remember what my own lyric is, but like, so yeah, it's like those like weird phrases that that was what I was trying to do. But then somebody else burned on it. Like there was, I remember seeing some review once where it's like he's trying to be like philosophical and he like misses the mark massively. And I was like, well, can't win them all.
I
Is
mean,
that
I
the song where
remember.
I sing about Michelangelo?
No, that was Cleopatra.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my mom was like really freaked out that thought I didn't know that Michelangelo didn't do the Mona Lisa. And I was like, no, I know the Mona Lisa was done by Leonardo da Vinci, like, but she was like, you put in this thing and you sound so stupid. It's like, oh,
Oh yeah, because you say that when he drew the Mona Lisa.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know my lyrics better than I do. You should sing if I ever go on tour. Are you in a band?
No, I used to be, but I used to cover quite a few of your songs, and Cleopatra was one of them.
Oh, cool. If you have any video of you guys playing or recording, send it my way. I'd love to hear it.
And number five, I actually I learned a little bit of this song, but I could never get the darn riff right. Tila and I,
Which riff? The beginning riff?
the damn 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 damn
Oh, yeah, I would know where that is. Teal and I was actually written, Lindsay, the girl that I dated from Texas, her brother had a dog named Tila. And her brother was always like, I don't know, into some shit or whatever. So we'd have to dog sit her dog. And so that song is about me hanging out with Tila and we're just sitting there waiting for like maybe Lindsay to come home or something. And so it's just about being bored with the dog. But then it was like everybody thought it was because there was that reality show at the time, Tila Tequila.
yeah.
And so everybody thought it was about her. And I was like, no, but that's cool. But yeah, maybe the dog was named after Tila Tequila now that I think of it. So it is kind of like full circle. Somewhere it's about Tila Tequila.
Uh, oh, okay. So that little riff comes after you sing I just don't know what I'm gonna do.
It's probably really basic. I wouldn't know how to. I'll like. I'll try and play it at some point, and I'll text you how it goes if I can remember how it goes.
Number four, this is another one I learned no tabs, just by ear, and I'm pretty sure I got most of it right. Uh, so before I say this one, I love it because I never thought I would use the sentence, uh, "Wow, police brutality sounds beautiful."
Oh yeah. Um, yeah, police brutality was about, I mean, all of again about, you know, broadly. Um, I was living in Kansas City, same, the girl from Texas, her and her friends had a gallery space that they did art shows in, and they were really fun. And one time the police came and they kicked everybody out of the gallery. But then since I was dating her, me and her and a couple of other friends stayed in the gallery and they had these big glass windows and they closed the windows or closed the door with these glass windows on it. And then the police just maced everybody in the front and the doors opened outwards, not inwards. So then we just saw all of our friends clawing at the glass windows, being like, "Let us in! They're macing all of us," and we just got to watch our friends. So that was where the song title came from.
Wow.
Everybody lived. Everybody was fine. It was a fun art show.
Number three, this one, it's not on Spotify, but true Harlem heads will know it. We talked about it a little earlier. LSD saves.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking like, how did he hear that song? I know it's on like YouTube or whatever. Um, so I don't know if I have any lyrical stuff. I mean, it probably some shit I was watching on television. Um, but one of my favorite things that bands do, like, is like a scream, like a woo, like Iggy Pop does it and a lot. But then like one of my favorites is like, Should I Stay or Should I Go? The Clash have a good one at the beginning where it's Joe Strummer being like, woo. And that girl on that we were recording at the distillery, and we went to the bar, and we grabbed everybody at the bar and we said come and do gang vocals like in the studio. And so we brought everybody from this bar into the studio, and then there's like, and nobody really knew how to sing, or all the clap tracks were off time and everything was fucked up. But that girl yelling in that begin the intro is like one of my favorite things I've ever recorded.
Yeah, I love your yell on the word yeah. Like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I so when we went to Australia, there was like the guy who's booked the tour for us. He was a big fan of, I think, that song, and I hadn't played it in so long that I didn't remember how to play it. And he was like kind of showing me. He was like, "No, no, it goes like this." And by the end of tour, from screaming that song, my voice was like so just scraped. It was just like really raw. And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot how this feels. It's cool to do that. Like it's damaging and it's like, you can't do it your whole life, but it's fun to just like yell, get it out.
Number two, we talked about it a little right now. Cleopatra.
Mm. So the two guys who made the Someday Soon video, they were doing this stuff for Vitamin Water, like where they would go and interview rappers around the country. And they were friends of mine, so I got to like join with them. And we went to like Twista's house in Chicago, his studio and stuff. I mean, it was fucking cool. And we went out to Houston, um, and went out to some this like the projects that this guy had grown up in like Northwest Houston, like really rural, like farm country, with these housing project in it. And the whole entire community came out and were like partying because he was like local celeb, fucking made good or whatever. And these kids showed up bareback riding horses. And so there's a line in the like in that song where it's like, you guys have horses or something, like, yeah, we keep them tied up around the back like dogs. That actually was a real thing that somebody told me. I was like, because I grew up in the Southwest, and like my dad had a horse. He lived in a trailer, but he had a little pen. And I was going, where the fuck are these horses kept? And they like had them tied up in their backyards like dogs. I was like, whoa, this is next fucking world. It was really intense, but it was really fun. And the guy was really cool. And I don't know, the rapper was.
And number one, this one is hands down my favorite song by you because it's one of those songs that how you hear a song from someone that you'll probably never end up meeting or whatever, and then you think, yo, this song's about me, or it's like so relatable, I guess, to the situations at the time. Cloud Pleaser is my number one.
Huh. Okay, that wasn't where I thought you were gonna go with that one. With what you were saying about it. I don't even remember what the lyrics to that one are. I'm glad that is the part where I say that.
Yeah,
What are the starting lyrics?
chorus is I had my heart broken. Oh no,
Oh,
that is the
yeah,
opening.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I had my
Okay.
heart broken.
Um, well, definitely relatable thing. The I don't remember anything really specifically about that song, about what it was about. I do remember the glad, it goes, I'm glad, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, I forget if that's, is it Mississippi John Hurt? Some old blues guy has a song where it's like, I'm glad. And it's like an old blues song. And I always thought that that was really cool, that like the lyric was, I'm glad, because it's like a strange word. to use because it's like happy, but it's like prideful and like I don't know. So that's it goes back to this like kind of reference, I guess, of like full on like old blues Mississippi kind of shit for the blues, even though it's like a pop song.
Hey, so on that note, I'm not sure if you've heard the song, and I'm blanking out on it, but I do remember hearing like a like kind of like an R&B or like a soul song, probably bluesy, of someone singing I lost my heart, and
Oh
that's one of the lyrics in the song where you're like and I lost my heart.
no,
Uh,
I haven't heard that one. But I probably have, right? Like that's the thing about, all the way back, to 2 hours ago when we were talking about the other record. Like it's like, yeah, like it's like you pick up this stuff and it gets locked in your brain somewhere, and then that's where it goes. And I'm so glad it skipped James, unless that's a cover. But yeah. So the blues and yeah, just grabbing stuff wherever you can. It's again that thing that we were talking about, you know, I mean, there's that line, right? Good artists borrow, great artists steal, you know. But the best way you can do that is to have whatever the influences go into your brain and then get kind of absorbed like all of these other weird ideas that you have and come out so changed that it's like you don't even recognize that there was a reference there in the first place. It just naturally came out of your mouth, you know. I'm glad that you like that song. I like that song too. I'm trying to learn how to do finger picking right now on guitar. And I was actually learning the beginning of that one because I was like, oh, it's cool because it's like, you're not even really playing a chord, you're just playing the octave on the top and bottom string. Sorry,
yeah, and I
guitar.
love also the the sadder moments. Well, I mean, it's already sad off the get-go of like heartbroken, but it's like at one point you sing about I went to your wedding, went to
Mm.
a funeral there.
Oh no,
Uh
it's I went to your wedding wearing a funeral veil.
what
So it's I went to your wedding wearing a funeral veil, like where, women would wear a veil over their face at funerals. And so it's kind of a burn. It's not actually a sad, although I don't want to steal anything from you, but it's about kind of going over to their wedding and being like, well, it's all over now, you know. So
okay, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. And then wait, now I'm thinking, do you sing said is something wrong? Now I'm in jail?
yeah, that's I well shit. Okay. Went to your I went to your wedding wearing a funeral veil, said something wrong, and now I'm in jail. Yeah, yeah. So it's about getting in trouble for mouthing off, I guess.
Michael, thank you so much for everything you shared with me, man. It's
No, this is great. No, I really hope that it's not too long-winded. And you can edit out if you feel like something I'm saying is stupid, chop it. Like, don't worry about it. No, this was
no
fun, and I don't know where you're headed with all this. If you're gonna keep doing them or whatever. But you've got like you do the research and you've got a good like flow. So I keep doing it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm this is already a big highlight and
All
I'm
right.
a couple months in, so I appreciate it, and I'll definitely send you the link once
Yeah,
I have everything ready. Should be hopefully towards the end of this month.
I'm looking forward to it. And if you go out west, let me know. And if I'm ever in South Texas, I'll holler.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll definitely stay in touch.
cool.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Yeah, we'll speak soon. Thanks, man.
Later.